asset management is important for everyone. But for a growth corpus and wealth corpus, keep equities. Fund managers, right? Like we're advising people. So that is the best thing. If you want to survive in this dynamic environment, the environment is very competitive. You need to continuously upskill yourself. Simplification is very tricky because finance world is very complicated. Because in India, we talk about just equity markets. Fixed income market is not so penetrated. Right. But abroad, the fixed income market is so much penetrated.
It's very vast.
I'm overweight on equities. I'm constructive on credit. I'm long on the USD positions. And I'm neutral on durations.
Welcome back to another episode of House of Equentis podcast. Today we have with us Maurya Hanspal, a CFA with 10 years of experience in the investment landscape. He's also a finance coach and an author. So please welcome Mr. Maurya to our podcast. So to begin with the podcast, let me ask you the first question. Tell us about your journey from being an asset allocation strategist at JP Morgan to motivational monetary fundas, your channel, I think on YouTube, and also on other various platforms. So just walk through us about your journey.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's a great opportunity for me to interact with you and like with my audience as well. So talking about my journey at JP Morgan and motivational monetary fundas. So the first thing is I never planned to join JP Morgan per se, right? Okay. Though it's been my first company. I'm thankful to JP Morgan. I express all my gratitude to JP Morgan for taking me in. But JP Morgan was never on my plate. I never thought about a company called JP Morgan or to be into a top investment banking firm because JP Morgan is the top investment banking firm in this entire world, right? So that was like during my time of MBA. I did my MBA from Equentis Business School, Hyderabad, right, in the field of core finance. So at that particular point of time, mostly students who join MBA, they either join it to start their own venture or a startup or something. But the majority of the people that you see, they come there for a job, right? Because they want a job in there, right? To have that earning, to have that salary, to have that financial independence into a good company and commanding a good CTC, right? But when I joined my MBA, my main goal was to learn and to understand things conceptually. At that particular point of time, I didn't think about a job or be it JP Morgan, be it Morgan Stanley, any of the companies. My main focus was to understand all the things conceptually. All those inputs which my faculties are teaching me, which I'm getting through various online courses, I grasp those concepts conceptually from the very crux, from the very basics, right? Because I believed if I'm sure about those concepts, be it about investment banking, be it about financial statement analysis, research, investments, right? If I'm confident into those concepts, I have the conceptual clarity, then wherever I go, be it a company, start my own venture or anywhere, I'll be confident.
Right.
Then somewhere JP Morgan came into place. I applied for that company as a part of my summer internship program, right? And again I was कि देखते हैं अगर हुआ तो हुआ, अगर नहीं हुआ तो बाकी companies तो आ ही रही हैं, correct?
Right.
But luckily I got through the process. And I got the summer internship there. And within 3 months after my internship got completed, it got converted into a pre-placement offer.
Acha. Okay.
So within my first year of MBA, I got placed.
Amazing.
So that was the thing. So here my journey started into JP Morgan.
Right.
And talking about my startup, so that is motivational monetary fundas, to all my audience.
Okay.
I have a habit of imparting knowledge to people, right? And that was inbuilt from my graduation times, right? I used to keep up small sessions, I would say in-group sessions, within my own batchmates, sometimes the senior batchmates, sometimes the junior batchmates as well, to teach them the concepts of the finance electives, be it derivatives, be it financial modeling and all that stuff, right? Okay. So that again passionated me, right, to teach all these concepts. And I further aggravated that thing during my MBA time. Because I still remember, it's not about boasting about myself. When I was in my first year of MBA, I started the batch with the second year of seniors, right? In my batch. And then that batch further expanded. And again, that was being done free of cost at that particular point of time. Right. So again, then people from different colleges came into place, right? From tier 3, tier 2 colleges per se. Now I'm going to give lectures in tier 1 colleges as well. But at least till that point of time, once I started it, I started to create that batch from tier 2, tier 3 colleges in cities and all. Then I wondered that if I can teach all these concepts, then why not monetize it? right? If you're teaching somebody and if you're teaching all that with your heart and soul, then why not monetize it, right? And that was the reason I came with this thing, motivational, that is to motivate people to grow in life, to feel empowered, to be confident and proud of themselves. Then the monetary, so that stands for the financial knowledge, and fundas is simply the gyan.
Yeah, right.
And that emerged the idea for the motivational monetary fundas. And then yes, from that point of time, my startup began. And like during my first year of MBA, it got incorporated, incepted.
Okay.
And it has been around 4 years, like since this has been incepted. And I've taught over more than 15,000 plus students.
Yeah, I know
Like
that.
all over
Yes,
India.
yes, yes.
So that's my journey.
That's an achievement, by the way. What made you feel interested in this field? Finance में कैसे interest आया?
That's a good question, a tricky question also.
Yeah.
कि finance ही क्यों, right?
Yeah,
Like you have different
exactly.
fields.
Finance ही क्यों?
See, most of the people have a finance background, right? Like maybe through their parents and all, right? So my mother is an advocate.
Oh,
She's from a non-finance background.
okay.
My father is into India Bulls, like he's into the loan department, right? Like he's the senior vice president of India Bulls currently, but he's not into like core finance of like research or modeling or that stuff, right? So coming from a non-finance background, first thing, it was one day when I was in class 9th or 10th, I remember, right? My father was watching Z Business. And Z Business में you have all those people.
Stock market stalwarts.
Correct.
वहाँ पे. Yeah.
आप ये खरीद लो, आप ये बेच लो,
right.
स्टॉप लॉस ये है, स्टॉप ऑर्डर ये है, इस पॉइंट तक खरीदना है, इतना बाय टारगेट, इतना सेल टारगेट. All these things were there. I was curious ये हो क्या रहा है, right? Then I asked his father, ठीक है, like my father, exactly क्या हो रहा है, like what's happening? He told share market होता है, stock market है, we have Nifty and Sensex, and people are like investing their money to make that return. ठीक है? Why? Because ultimately job might not always make you wealthy. Job might make you rich, but job will not make you wealthy. Right? There's a difference between being rich and wealthy. Right? So I thought, अच्छा, okay, it sounds something interesting. ठीक है, मैं 10th में हूँ, क्या जा रहा है, थोड़ा पैसा वैसा कमाएंगे, क्या हो गया, ठीक है?
Yeah.
But again, that barrier of like 18 years of age is all there, like before investing into market. So from 10th standard, I started to gather my knowledge about stock markets, especially in India, right? About Nifty, Sensex, stocks, sectors. And I remember at the class 10th, I was preparing the financial models for companies.
Really? Wow.
Right. And at that point of time, the content was not like freely available on social media so much on YouTube, because nowadays we see people are hosting free sessions when creating modeling, doing research reports. Right. At that point of time, like you needed to struggle, go to websites, find material, right, and like all that stuff. So kaise taise I used to get that material, because in 10th class, like no parent would be paying apart from your school fees. They will say 10th clear kar lo, board exam clear kar lo, तुम क्या कॉलेज की बातें कर रहे हो, राइट? सो दैट वाज अ मेजर थिंग, एंड नो पेरेंट वुड बी पेइंग सम एक्स्ट्रा फीस ऑन कोर्सेज, राइट? बिकॉज 10th पास करनी है, करेक्ट?
अच्छे मार्क्स आने चाहिए 90% के ऊपर,
करेक्ट, 90% से ऊपर. एंड आजकल तो डिमांड होगी मतलब कि 100% की डिमांड चल रही है, राइट? बिकॉज लाइक इफ यू टॉक अबाउट दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी एंड इवन लाइक मुंबई यूनिवर्सिटी, 99 कट ऑफ, 100% कट ऑफ, कैसे पढ़ रहे हैं बच्चे, राइट? सो दैट्स द थिंग. खुद से लाइक आई यूज टू डू स्टफ, एंड माई पेरेंट्स हैड नो आइडिया कि एक 10th क्लास का बच्चा अपार्ट फ्रॉम डूइंग हिज एकेडमिक्स इज प्रिपेयरिंग दोज फाइनेंशियल मॉडल्स. एंड आई यूज टू डू दैट इन अ हाइडेड मैनर, छिप के, like so that my parents don't say me ki do your stuff for 10th class and prepare for English exam, Hindi exam, for SST exam, no that stuff, right? So that was the thing. And when I further started to understand markets, try to forecast multiples, I got that knowledge in the back end, because if I'm able to compare that multiple, like for example, if I started in 2015 around or something, right, I can compare that multiple with 2017 or 18, like if my forecast is correct or not, right? Though that forecast will change, right? The research forecast tend to change. Right. There are like multiple re-ratings for the companies, and the multiples get changed. But if I'm able to match those multiples like with someone working in a particular company, then how good I am, right? Though people might have some different assumptions to create model, but at least how closer I am, right? So that further fascinated me towards this journey. मेरा interest बढ़ा, and finance के पीछे I became almost mad. And यहाँ से ही I started my journey into finance, and that further passionated me to join GP, start my startup, everything.
Okay. So tell us, what is the importance of asset management currently, and why people need to know about it?
Okay, asset management. Again, a very good question, like for all the audience, like who would be watching our podcast later at time. The thing is, see, asset management, as the name suggests, it's managing your assets.
Right.
Correct. So basically, when someone is trying to manage the assets of a person, the main objective is he's trying to create the wealth for a future perspective for the client or for that particular person, right? So here I'll be talking about just the asset management perspective, talking about the investment into equities, into fixed income, into alternatives, commodities per se, right? So asset management is something that will help to create wealth for a future, because as stated earlier also, a job might not always make you rich, right? You need to have a side income. Having a side income is not always to have startups or do such stuff. Not everyone is able to start a thing, right?
जैसे इंडिया में हम सब लोग एफडी रियल एस्टेट गोल्ड दीज आर द 3 एसेट्स जो हमें पता है
Correct.
तो इसमें हाउ डू यू थिंक दैट दिस इज ग्रोइंग एंड व्हाट विल बी द फ्यूचर एंड हाउ पीपल शुड अप्रोच इट
Correct. So if I talk about FDs per se, because Indian investors are mad after the FDs and real estate and gold. Gold being like close to our heart.
Right.
Our mothers, daddies, and everyone is closer to gold. Like they want the gold jewelry, right? But now people have started to invest into gold bonds, be it sovereign gold bonds, be it gold saving funds, be it gold ETFs, like ETFs being a new one in India, right? Like people have been talking about the mutual funds in India, but now it's time to talk about ETFs as well, right? We say like mutual fund sahi hai, but ETF bhi sahi hai, right? So that thing. So gold is a good investment, but that is closer to our heart as well, right? So like if we talk about gold has given us enormous returns, like in just 1 year, more than 15-16% returns, right? And still the market is rising. There are like multiple reasons for that. China keeping it, the gold reserves and like XYZ stuff. But gold is something that will protect you against inflation as a hedge against inflation. The market goes up or down. Certain allocation, be it 5% towards gold is sufficient. And here I talk about gold ETFs, gold bonds, sovereign gold bonds. And having the physical gold is something I would keep away from an investment purpose, because that's an emotional aspect. Good for marriage purposes, right? And if I talk about the second one, that's the real estate. Again, people have started to invest into REITs. They say if you can't own a real estate and go for a REIT, but I don't believe in REIT personally, right?
So REIT is real estate investment trust. So yeah.
Correct. So if someone is not able to have an ownership in a particular house, he can go towards investing into REIT. Right? So like just for the audience. So the thing is, owning a house has a different feeling and owning a REIT has a different feeling. Owning a house has an emotional aspect, right? You are safe in the house. कुछ भी होता है तुम्हारे साथ, your job goes, something bad happens, खाना नहीं मिलता, एक छत तो है ना ऊपर, right? So that's an emotional aspect with the house. Real estate, the REIT stocks might be doing well. I don't personally track those REIT stocks, but having an exposure towards the REIT stocks on a temporary basis might do well. But the physical real estate is something that can give you a good rental yield as well. So rental yield, audience, is nothing but the price of the property, right? The rent that you're getting from the property by the cost of that property or the price of that property. So ideally, a rental yield of around 5 to 6% is really good in India. But somewhere, like in most properties, we tend to get just 2 or 3%, and that's really bad, right? So having to own a physical property, I suppose, is really good. But the first thing is have your own house first, and then go for some rental properties. So that's the first thing. And the third one is the fixed deposits. Fixed deposits is something our parents, our great grandparents have been trusting upon, right? It's a safety haven. It's a safe structure, right? Going for fixed deposits is not bad. Like you might have heard many YouTubers or like financial people like saying that FD barbad hai. Like go for equity. FD barbad nahi hai. FD will save your money. Keep the money in FD just for emergency purposes, right? So FD will save your money. The stock market goes down, the FD will give you the fixed rate of interest. So FD will save your money. So for an emergency corpus, keep FD. But for a growth corpus and wealth corpus, keep equities. And that is why, like coming back to your previous question, asset management is important for everyone.
Right.
They need to know that where to invest, when to invest, and why to invest. Be it equities, fixed income, alternatives, be it gold per se, like in terms of commodities or the alternatives part, be it fixed deposit, because every asset class has its own advantage. And you need to accept that. Right, and if you can't do it by your own, like we have the mutual fund way route, like we have so like we have the people, like we have the advisors, right?
Fund
like who are advising fund managers, right? Like we're advising people. So that is the best thing.
That's the best thing. So you had a very diverse journey in the market. So starting from equity research se leke investment, banking, now in wealth management. So what are the lessons that you've learned in all these years with your rich experience about 10 years वाला experience. तो आपने क्या सीखा है? What is your takeaway on that?
देखो, I would say 10 years is actually too less, right? I'm still learning. I'm still into the learning phase. ठीक है. तो 10 years में I would say the one most important thing which I have learned is the continuous upskilling. You need to continuously upskill yourself. Now here I can talk about, I learned to create financial models in a better way. I learned about different asset classes. I learned about creating the financial models in a complex way, valuing different stuffs, cross holdings, cash, investments, etc. That's a separate thing. But the learning is something unique that you tend to get out of your experience. It's not always the work that you are doing. Of course, like you tend to get better in your work, right? Over 5 years, 10 years period, like you become a specialist in that profile, right? But one thing that is you learn is continuous upskilling. Because for the audience as well, if you want to survive in this dynamic environment, the environment is very competitive. You need to continuously upskill yourself. Now, people might talk about AI and stuff, so that's a separate topic to discuss. But the thing is, you need to continuously upskill in whatever you are doing. Be it your job.
Do it on the side, वैसा.
Perfect. So, side by side करो. अगर markets को like if you're trying to do some research on markets, then markets को track करते रहो. कुछ ना कुछ नया सीखोगे रोज. Right? So that is the thing that you need to upskill yourself. Right? Upskilling can be like be it, I would say, any domain per se, right? Like if I talk about myself, I became a better person tracking the global markets because I upskilled myself in the global markets. Like instead of just looking towards the Indian markets, I tried to analyze and understand the global markets. So that made me feel more confident to talk about the global markets on a bigger platform as well, be it from JP Morgan side, be it from my personal perspective. The second thing which I would say is about tools. Now people might say कि Maurya बात करेगा Excel का, Tableau का, Power BI का. Though that's the thing. Excel, Tableau, Power BI is like important. But now the new tools have started to come in, like Alteryx. You have Acceptor.
Okay.
Right. So these tools are really good to learn from a future perspective. Just don't be a robot, but just learn how a robot works. Right. Because you need to make him work.
Right.
Right. So that is the thing. And try to build in your confidence to survive in the world. Right. Like even if you don't know something, right, you need to have that confidence कि सामने वाले पर्सन को समझ ही नहीं आया कि तुमको पता ही नहीं है. बिकॉज दैट कॉन्फिडेंस लाइक नीड्स टू बी बिल्ड अप. ये तुमको पता होना चाहिए कि तुमको नहीं पता. आफ्टर दैट थिंग यू कैन जस्ट ट्राई टू बिल्ड अपॉन योर सेल्फ, लाइक यू कैन इम्प्रूव योर सेल्फ. बट एट दैट पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम व्हेन द सिचुएशन डिमांड्स यू नीड टू बी कॉन्फिडेंट. सो दैट कॉन्फिडेंस इज समथिंग दैट इज एम्पावरिंग मी एज वेल. राइट. अब मैं आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि मुझे नहीं पता, मैं बोल रहा हूँ. राइट. बट द थिंग इज certain situations comes in everyone's life, like where they're stuck into some questions, be it financially, emotionally, mentally, and they have to handle that thing, right? And that comes like with experience. क्योंकि इंसान को ठोकर खा के समझ आता है. So that is the thing. Like nothing comes on your plate. ठोकर खाओगे तो सीखोगे.
So these are the lessons that you've learned. Amazing. So you've also trained 15,000 students in financial modeling and valuations. So what drives your passion? Matlab, we already know that you love teaching, but what exactly is it that you are so passionate that you've like, it's very difficult, I mean, to train like 15,000 students?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So the thing is, क्या बोलते हैं, we call it जिज्ञासु कीड़ा, right? Curiosity, right? Like for the audience. So I have been curious to know the stuff like which I'm doing in, right? If I'm doing anything, be it finance, be it anything in my personal life, I want to know why.
Okay.
Because the thing is, if you don't get the answer for why, be it your job profile, like be it your personal profile, your interest loses in that particular role, in that particular job, work, or even from that person from whom you are expecting that answer. Interest completely khatam ho jata hai if someone is not able to answer that why, right? Because I have heard people saying me कि why इतना क्यों पूछता है, क्या question है? Because I want to get the clarity. I want to know अगर ये चीज़ हो रही है क्यों हो रही है. Correct? So that thing I want to know. Right? And the same thing, if someone is asking me those questions, why Maurya? Why Maurya? ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है? ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है? I'm more than happy to answer those things because me myself is curious to know. And sometimes they will ask me such questions which me myself have to do some research and get back to them.
So you're also learning.
Yeah. I'm also learning.
Yeah.
Right? So that curiosity, it keeps me alive It motivates me to answer the questions of be it 5,000 students, 10,000 students, 15,000 students, in future billions and billions of students like whom I will teach and expand my personal brand.
Yeah.
So that motivation for why from my side, क्यों हो रहा है? And again, if a person is asking me, then I'm able to answer that. So that curiosity, that happiness, that motivation I get, कि I will tell you the answer. I know that, don't worry, like Maurya is here.
Yeah.
So that is the thing like which keeps me feel motivated and passionate about such things.
Okay. So you come with this very vast experience, okay, from your equity research days to investment banking and now wealth management. So tell me, how do you simplify these complex financial concepts and teach it to students and teach it to other people? How do you simplify it for people like us?
Simplification is very tricky because finance world is very complicated. You need to see from which point to start, like to make the process more interesting, right? So the thing that happens is the first thing like which I focus upon is of course upon the theory aspect. First, the student should know that what exactly he is learning from a theoretical perspective. Concepts. And what exactly he is learning, then comes the practical aspect, how he can apply it. So bombarding all that knowledge or just rectifying stuff like will lead you nowhere. Take your time. There's no rush, right? Take your time for one particular topic. Like for example, if I'm talking about the derivative markets, right? Like which includes the futures and options and swaps, like for the audience to hedge our portfolio, right? Like if the market goes against your expectation, your portfolio will still be hedged and the portfolio will be making the returns, right? So the thing is, if I'm talking about the derivatives market, right? I told kya hote hain derivatives. I told about futures, options, swaps. Now the time is to go to that trading portal, kind of a paper trading strategy, right?
Okay.
So on the different portals, just go there. Like so, like just go with your students, guide them because first time unko bhi nahi aayega samajh kya ho raha hai, right?
Yeah.
Now this concept of futures we have learned, right? Now how this futures position is being used to hedge your portfolio.
So you also show it practically?
Practically. So that is being showed in my training programs, all practically. That this is the portfolio, right? A dummy portfolio having all these shares and stocks, a kind of mechanism I've prepared for that, right? And how you can use this futures and options to hedge your portfolio. Why to take a long call, right? A long position or a short position. I believe the market is going to go down. In theory, we say take a short position, right? Why do you take a short position? Like what's the logic? How will the person make a profit as a spread between the short and buying back that later, right? Like between the futures and the cash positions. So that need to be understood. So that I'm teaching them practically, ideally, be it like one thing. So from theory to the most practical aspect, be it any topic, and taking your own time. And the one thing is I've asked them to come back to me for any of the concerns or questions. So that's a lifetime benefit that they get. कि मुझसे जो पूछना है तुम पूछो कभी भी ठीक है मैं यहाँ पे बैठा हूँ. Right, the guys have my personal WhatsApp numbers. Like most of them have my personal WhatsApp numbers. And because actually like it becomes somewhat difficult to handle like 15,000 plus students also, right? So most of the time I try to handle the queries in a group manner, right? And if someone has some specific questions, because I have just divided those 15,000 people among the different trainers, right? So all those questions that come to me, I try to send them a voice note through WhatsApp, through LinkedIn, through like through my website, my personal website. So the main thing is learn theoretically and then try to apply that concept practically to make it simplified.
So as an asset management specialist at JP Morgan Chase, so what are your role? What is your role there as a holding that position? And what are the requirements that needs to be fulfilled for that particular job position?
Yeah. So the thing is, currently, I'm working as a multi-asset specialist.
Okay.
From a global strategy point of view. My team is called as a multi-asset solutions team.
Okay.
Because we're trying to provide the solution to the client that which asset class to invest into. Now here to the audience, the multi-asset approach means that we're trying to invest into all the asset classes, especially the equity, the fixed income and the alternatives. Because different kinds of securities are within these three underlying paths only. Right? So equities, fixed income and the alternatives. Right? So we're trying to suggest the client upon the market movements. Right? That which market is good. Right? On a global perspective. Why to be overweight in India? Why to be underweight in China? China being undervalued currently. So people have started to take some more kind of bets in China, right? Because the P multiples have been too low in China currently, right?
Okay.
So similarly, certain kind of study is being made for the global markets, be it Europe, be it US, be it Japanese, Korean, and Taiwan markets. And all those sectors are picked up, right? And we tend to suggest the client that which sector is good to invest into with the help of our various research teams, reporting teams, right? So basically, if I talk about, I need to be very well aware about the global markets, what's happening in the global markets. It's like not just about India, the global markets in general, the developed economies and emerging economies.
Right.
I need to know what exactly is happening in that. What are the sectors that are bound to do well? Which sector is overvalued, which we can plan to sell or keep a hold strategy upon it? Which sector is undervalued that we can plan to buy, right? From an equity perspective, a fixed income perspective, from an alternative perspective, right? And the equity market, which I believe is the simplest market, ideally, because in India we talk about just equity markets.
Yeah.
Fixed income market is not so penetrated, but abroad the fixed income market is so much penetrated.
It's very vast.
Very vast, absolutely correct. They tend to take strategies upon duration. They tend to work upon convexity numbers, on duration numbers, and they try to hedge their portfolios by using the different concepts in fixed income. And again, the alternatives like come into place through the real estate, through the private credit, the venture capitalist firms. So all these kinds of investments. So a person who is planning to land into such roles, he needs to know about the thick and thin of equities, fixed income and alternatives, different strategies, why not. So all these things like he should be clear with. And he should have a particular view about the market. Like for example, if an interviewer is asking you that what's your view in the market, right? Then he should have a one-liner answer. That one-liner is very important, like in such kind of roles.
Okay.
So for example, if you ask me that what's my view in the global markets, then if I need to answer as a one-liner, like to the audience as well, then I would say I'm overweight on equities, I'm constructive on credit, I'm long on the USD positions, and I'm neutral on durations. So that's for fixed income. So might sound complex, but when we try to understand these things conceptually, the things will tend to become easier for us. Right. So that's the thing a person should know. And then people ask, a CFA is mandatory or not? Having a CFA is an essential ingredient. CFA is not always mandatory, but again, it's a good thing to have in your CV.
Okay. So coming back to motivational monetary funders. So what is your goal? Where do you want to take this organization in the coming few years?
As I just told you, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. Millions and billions of people I want into this organization.
Okay.
I want to expand it on a global scale. There have been people, because mostly like if I talk about 15,000 people, like if I just take a lump sum number, some numbers might be there like 100 or 200, like above or low. 15,000 people, around 14,500 people are all Indians.
Okay.
Right? 500 would be some like good opportunities from US, from UK, right? So I want to expand it on a global scale, right? And the number of people to come into my sessions, my live training sessions, because the thing is I'm focusing towards the practical aspect and the quality. Because I focus upon the quality at minimal fee.
Achha.
Right? So that is the thing. Like we aren't charging more than 4,000 to 5,000 rupees for that whole training program. And we are providing lifetime support at just 4K to 5K price. So earlier I just started with normal things on like personal finance or like financial literacy. But later after 1 year, I started with core financial things. Financial, you have your equity research, financial modeling, valuation, derivatives, investment banking. So like
all assets.
All assets are there like currently.
Achha.
How to be a multi-asset specialist.
Oh, like you. Yeah.
So that I started along with as well. And then we started with the practical training programs, Excel, Tableau, Power BI.
Okay.
Alteryx, Acceptor, we are still starting. I'm still searching for some good trainers upon the same stuff.
Okay.
So all these things will come up practically, and along with the placement training, because that placement training is something like that's being provided from thin and thrust. What questions can be asked to you guys in the interview, right? For any of those kinds of roles, right? So that thing is very much important, like through our training sessions, and we have started to build up partnerships like with a few of the companies as well.
Okay.
Not great companies like globally, because since it's just a start, but at least some tier 2, tier 3 firms to have that connectivity and to get our students placed into those corporates, because ultimately people want that placement. And the new thing is, which I feel personally, like which I would be using my personal funds as well for that purpose, that is the people like who aren't able to afford the education, right? I have a separate league for that, right? I'm happy to train them because I have like multiple people like into batches, like which get the same training as a paid people. There are people like who have paid me because I'm asked those people to pay me at least just 1 rupees.
Okay.
Just 1 rupee. Free में नहीं आना. क्यों? Because if that person is paying that 1 rupee, that person has the value for it. Right?
He knows
अगर
the
पैसा नहीं भी है, ठीक है, still 1 rupee होगा किसी ना किसी के पास. Right? That 1 rupee anyone can pay. So separate batches are there with me currently. Not huge people are there. Might be just 50 to 60 people might be there. Right? They've paid me just 1 rupee or 2 rupees or 5 rupee per se. ठीक है. उन्होंने मुझे मान के चलो कि 50 से ऊपर पे नहीं करा है, ठीक है, लाइक 50 रुपये से ऊपर, ठीक है, एंड दे आर गेटिंग द सेम क्वालिटी एजुकेशन, सेम थिंग, सेम प्लेसमेंट सपोर्ट, सेम प्लेसमेंट गाइडेंस, बिकॉज दैट इज द एम्पावरिंग लाइक विच आई वांट टू डू, बिकॉज इफ आई एम गेटिंग दैट मनी, इफ गॉड इज गिविंग मी दैट वेल्थ, देन आई वांट टू डू फॉर समवन नीडी एज वेल, राइट, बिकॉज इफ यू गिव समवन लाइक यू गेट इट बैक, सो दैट्स द थिंग.
So how do you envision creating literacy awareness through your startup?
Yeah. Again, a very good question, and that's a very competitive question also, right? Because people are into this domain. There are many financial influencers, so I don't call correct. काफी सारे हैं. So like respecting everyone, like all the financial influencers. So I personally don't call myself as a financial influencer, right? Because I know that everyone is working for money and like everyone is doing a really good job. Like everyone has huge knowledge into the field of finance, and I completely respect and acknowledge that fact, because even I have learned from those guys at a point of time. But one thing which I don't like is sometimes there are some paid promotions like which might hamper like good people in the market, right? And those particular websites, investing sites, or those platforms are not so good, and the people are investing into that thing and your wealth erodes, because those people are getting crores and lakhs of money to promote that. Right, and that is why I don't call myself as a finance influencer, because I don't go for such tie-ups, and even if I go for such tie-ups, like those are all genuine tie-ups, like which have succeeded in the market and which are like really good in the market. Right, so creating that financial literacy won't be exactly through a financial influencer platform ideally, because like what's the thing, I have my own platforms on YouTube or Instagram. I keep on posting on LinkedIn, right? Not from a finance influencer perspective, but from a motivational perspective, and creating a financial literacy among people at free of cost, right? Because not everyone would be paying me 5,000 rupees and 4,000 rupees to join my training program, right? The competition is huge, correct? And that is the fact, right? So how to impart that literacy to everyone, right? And basic चीज़ें होती हैं जो लोगों को नहीं पता. How to open bank account, right? कि म्यूचुअल फंड में कैसे पैसा डालना है. How to open that Zerodha and like Grow का ऐप, ठीक है, like जो भी apps हैं. How to have your tax planning, insurance planning, because taking insurance at an early age, it saves you on the premium.
Right.
Right, the life insurance premiums, correct? Tax planning कैसे करनी है? The people like who aren't filing those ITRs, and after 2 years they have to pay that 20% TDS extra, that stuff that's going on. So basic financial knowledge, right? बैंक में जाके बैंक वाले से कैसे बात करनी? Because बैंक वाला बोलेगा कि ठीक है, आप मेरे पास बैंक अकाउंट खुलवा लो. वो सामने से बोलेगा FD भी तो है सर म्यूचुअल फंड में भी डाल दो पैसा. अब सारा कमीशन उसको मिल रहा है ना, राइट? सो FD में डालें, क्यों डालें, राइट? तो लाइक हमको पता होना चाहिए कितना डालें. क्या सारा डाल दें? ऑफ कोर्स नॉट. अब वो बोलेगा कि म्यूचुअल फंड में डाल दो. सर आपकी सैलरी तो अच्छी आ रही है सर, 2-2.5 लाख आप मतलब लाइक 2.5 लाख महीना कमा रहे हो, आप लार्ज कैप में डाल दो, आप लाइक मतलब लार्ज कैप ग्रोथ में डाल दो पैसा, राइट? क्यों डाल दें? Why can't we diversify our portfolio? And उसका आंसर उसके पास नहीं होगा, तो वो लाइक फंड मैनेजर के पास ही होगा, बिकॉज उसको लाइक कमीशन मिल रहा है. तुम बोल रहे हो पैसा दिया, एंड देन योर क्वेरी वुड बी डायरेक्टेड टू सम फंड मैनेजर, एंड दैट पर्सन वुड बी पोरिंग योर हार्ड अर्न मनी, राइट? क्यों का सवाल, दैट आई एम सेइंग दैट क्यूरियोसिटी, राइट? So you need to have that basics clear, and that is through financial literacy and personal finance videos, which I am trying to promote through YouTube, through LinkedIn, through Instagrams, through live sessions like this on this podcast. Thank you for this again.
Yeah.
So like this is my aim.
So you've also written a book, Driving Through the Rule Book of an Investor. So tell us about your book. What made you write that book, and what are the insights? What is it that you want to tell people and teach people through this book?
Yeah. So my book's name is Driving Through the Rule Book of an Investor. And it talks about on fundamental and technical analysis.
Okay.
So from the fundamental aspects, I've tried to cover everything upon valuations, upon modeling, multiples, everything I've covered from scratch, right? And even from the technical part, because the major thing is why I came up with this book. The thing was, people are quite skeptical, right? Like if they want to start their journey into finance, from where they should start. Market में बहुत सारी books हैं, There are multiple books in the market. And people are suggesting take this book, take that book, right? So one hard stop, like where they can learn from the basics, because not every book will teach you from that scratch, right? Not every book will teach you A for apple and B for ball, right? They will just teach you like Z for zebra and start from that major thing, right? So that thing is very important. I started from the very scratch, and once you read that book, you'll see starting बहुत simple हो रही है. ये क्या like graduation का part लिखा हुआ है मौर्य ने, right? Because that simplicity is important. And धीरे धीरे as the chapters increases, you tend to flip those pages, right? The intensity increases, the complexities increases, because I've taken the examples of two companies from the pharma sector, right? I won't be naming the companies in this podcast, but the thing is practical calculations of their financial ratios, their valuation multiples, like price to book value, EV to EBITDA, price to sales, everything has been calculated manually, right? And formulated in the form of a table. Right? So that thing has been done, and the comparison has been created, because valuation can't be done in isolation. You need to compare your target company with a similar company in the same sector only.
Right.
So that thing has been done very clearly.
Okay.
And all these things about DCF modeling, relative valuation, how we are valuing the same companies through the different methods of valuation, be it DCF, be it RV, be it like some other methods. So all these things have been covered in with practical examples कि practically कैसे करना है. The problem comes in technical analysis. Because technicals क्या होता है कि जब तक charts नहीं देखोगे तब तक कुछ समझ नहीं आएगा, right? Because tools तो ये होता है like everyone tries to understand.
Change होते हैं every day.
Correct.
So it's difficult to do that.
So what I have done on that particular day, like when I was doing my research, I've attached the screenshots of those charts, okay, from the different websites, your TradingView and some other websites, and shown that this was the state, and that is why I recommended to buy that stock. So all those channels, all those patterns, candlesticks, Donchian charts, RSIs, volumes indicators, practically they have been taken as a screenshot and pasted in the book, like so that the students understand. Right. If they are taking a buy or a sell position on that particular stock on the basis of technicals, then what was the chart actually like for these particular stocks on that particular day? So that is something. So the book has been very simplified. I would say कि technical jargons कम use करे हैं मैंने, but अगर use करे हैं तो all that kind of summary and the glossaries they are like for that purpose.
Achha, okay.
Yeah, and I've sold around more than I would say 1,000 copies for the same currently.
Oh wow, congrats.
And like that's available on like Amazon, Flipkart, it's available on Goodreads platform, and also on like some of the offline stores in Delhi. Yeah.
Okay. So coming to the financial market trends in India currently, what do you think is changing in terms of trends in the financial markets?
Financial markets are very tricky now. They have become very dynamic, and trends are changing continuously. Because every time we have a kind of a recession or something bad happens, a kind of a contagion event or a black swan event happens, the dynamics of the market changes. We had it around the Great Depression in the 1990s, right? The market dynamics changed. Again, after the 2000 dot-com bubble, again the market dynamics changed. We had the 2008 financial crisis, the global financial crisis in real estate, the market dynamics changed. We had the COVID pandemic, right? We had the Russia-Ukraine war, right? All that stuff. So what happens? When these things like come into the market, right, your dynamics tend to change in terms of how the financial assets are behaving, right? The one thing is that like you need to understand how the financial assets have started to behave, or the way in which the assets behaving have changed, right? Because earlier, like what used to happen, like if I talk about equities and fixed income, before that COVID pandemic, equities and fixed income, they used to have an inverse relationship, right? And the correlation was negative. Nowadays, we see the correlation like around 0.5, 0.4, 0.5 ka chal raha hai correlation, right? So that has become positive. Previous bull runs, be like 2023 per se, equity market was doing well, fixed income market was doing well. Like both the markets were doing well combined, right? And this hasn't happened in a great fashion previously.
Okay.
Both the assets being positively correlated and both the assets working together. So like that has been one thing, right? That has been happening. Then the thing is, the trends are shifting towards, I would say, dispersion among the global markets as well, right? Like earlier what used to happen, the emerging markets or the markets like India, they used to follow the US markets and European markets.
Right.
But now they have diverged. Now questions come into place, people tend to argue till what time this divergence will come into place. एंड वो क्वेश्चन सब पूछे जा रहे हैं, उसका आंसर किसी के पास नहीं है, ठीक है, बिकॉज द मार्केट इज डूइंग गुड नाउ. द यूएस मार्केट हैज स्टार्टेड टू कम बैक एंड डू गुड, बट इट हैज फॉलोड दोज इंडियन मार्केट्स, नॉट बीइंग इंडियन मार्केट्स फॉलोइंग द यूएस मार्केट्स. Correct? So again, that kind of a diversion has taken place. The markets that used to perform well together, they aren't performing well together, right? The third thing is, like, if we talk about inflation numbers, interest rates, right? If we talk about the Western economies, the US and all that, they're planning to reduce those interest rates.
Okay.
The ECB has already, like, I would say, reduced the interest rate by 0.25%,
Yeah,
right, in the
I
previous
think-
month.
Yeah, previous month, previous quarter.
Previous
yeah.
month, right? So earlier, like, what used to happen, people used to follow the US Fed. कि Fed interest rates कम करेगा, then the other bank used to reduce the interest rate. But now the ECB has reduced the interest rate because the inflation number has come down around 2.3, 2.4%, right? So people are going independent. They aren't following that Fed or a major economy like US. So people are planning to reduce those interest rates. On some part, is happening, like what's happening? When they were increasing the rate of interest, like in the previous year, China was reducing the interest rates, right, to foster the economy. There are some economies who are still increasing the interest rates currently, right, to fight inflation, right? So all these kind of dynamics have come into place. And the last thing is AI and the artificial intelligence.
True.
You need to know how to use AI. People tend to argue that AI might lose your job, right? But the thing is, it might not. It will make you lose your job if you don't know how to use AI.
AI.
You need to know how to use it. As I said, like previously also, कि robot नहीं बनना, robot से काम कैसे कराने वो आना चाहिए, right? Because these can be the weapons of mass destruction also, right? So going towards all these things and towards that AI concept, towards that fintech perspective, so these are the trends towards which the market has been shaping.
My next question would be on investors, concerning investors, that what they should be aware of in the current age.
Okay, so what investors should be aware in the current age?
Broad topic, but yeah.
So like we talk about the people like who are starting their journey into markets, like 18 years and all.
Yes, yes.
Okay, they should be aware about following a good person in the market, first of all, and stop hearing any kind of stock recommendations from different platforms. Because there are different news channels, different financial platforms who tend to see that buy this stock and sell this stock. And just based upon their recommendations, they tend to buy and sell, right? And now their bet can turn opposite also. They might lose all the money. The first thing is they need to understand the market and be patient, right? They need not chase something like which is out of their scope, first of all. And what do I mean is, the people like who have entered into the market, like being like 18, 19 years of age after COVID-19 pandemic, they've just seen the growth in the market. They haven't seen the fallbacks in the market, the market going down. Right. And everyone is so happy the market is going up. Nifty Sensex at 79,000. You have like 24,000 per se all crossed. But if the market crashes at a particular point of time, which I don't believe personally, but if that does, those guys would be in the most pain. Right. So the first thing is try to understand the market, try to understand things conceptually, and don't just focus upon those bets. Right. So that is the thing. If you want to start your journey, start with 500 rupees, 1000 rupees in a mutual fund first. Stock side by side, you can just learn how to invest, right? But the first thing is, if your goal only is to create wealth from a very first stage, start investing into a mutual fund, right? And stock picking can be done side by side just to understand the market, that which stock is doing good and which stock is not doing good, right? You might lose the money in starting initial times, right? But you are just 18, 19, 20 years. You guys can work hard. You guys can earn back the money, right? So taking that risk in the market by yourself, by trying to analyze stocks, buying and selling them, and for the purpose of creating that long-term wealth, so that mutual fund is fine. So try to understand markets and be patient. So that's my advice.
Okay. So how crucial do you think is a financial advisor at current times?
Okay. So financial advisor is a crucial aspect, I would say. Not because I belong to a similar company, but the thing is, if you are having huge assets with you, right, you need to have an advisor to manage those assets. If you're having the multiple sources of incomes, your salaries, business incomes, you need to have someone that who can plan your tax. So financial advisor would be planning everything from your asset allocations, be it equity, fixed income, alternatives, how much, be it your insurance planning, your tax planning, your real estate planning, estate planning. Right, once you die, then how much money will go to your daughters, your sons, XYZ stuff, right? So a financial advisor, if you're having a huge amount of wealth and multiple sources of income, in that case, a financial advisor is very needy. If you have a small corpus, you have a lower amount of assets, right? And your asset class structure is not complicated. Incomes aren't complicated. You do not earn in crores and crores from multiple sources. Then even not having a financial advisor is just fine. When your situation is complex, your portfolio is complex, you have multiple income sources, you need multiple plannings, right? Then you will need a financial advisor, because he will advise you, though like he would be charging you sum of money, right? But he would be giving you the best possible advice.
Right.
So in a complex scenario per se, that advisor is necessary.
Okay. So now coming to the fun part of this podcast is asking you some personal questions.
Okay.
So the first one would be, how do you ensure to make time for your family on a busy day?
Okay. That's a very tough question. Because family keeps on saying, time nikalo yaar, time nikalo yaar.
Yeah.
So that keeps on happening. So see what happens, I live in Delhi. That
Like you
I
are
belong
from
to Delhi.
Delhi,
Yeah. So I belong to Delhi, right? But I'm working in Mumbai, right, at JP Morgan, like just for the job purpose and for some business purposes, right? So the thing is, I plan to go to Delhi. Earlier, like when I joined Mumbai, like when I came to Mumbai, I used to go like in every 6 months, right? Then it came down to 3 months. Now it's been like every 2 months, right?
Okay.
And from the previous 3 months, I've been going like every month.
Okay.
So
That's amazing.
it is, I love to spend time with family, right? My father, my mother, my little sister,
Okay.
right? I spend to time, I basically love to spend time with them, right? And that's the reason I keep on booking my flights and going in there like once in 3 months, like on an average basis, right? But the thing that comes on a daily or a weekly purpose, कि जब मैं काम कर रहा हूँ तो कैसे बात करूँगा, so उसके लिए मैं क्या करता हूँ, I make sure that before going to work, I give at least 15 to 30 minutes to my family, okay, like before going to work. And once I come back from office, like if I come back early, because my shift timings are from 2:30 p.m. right to 11:30 p.m. Like it's a US EMEA shift,
Yeah, global markets.
right? A global market shift. So in the morning, I try to spend some time, like 15 to 30 minutes, and that's minimum, right?
Okay.
And if I come back early by 10:30, 11, right? Because my parents, like they usually sleep by 12, 12:30, right? Then I try to spend at least an hour or so on a daily basis. So I would say, yeah. So that is the way I try to spend some time with my family. And of course, with my friends, I would say it is more of after job, right? So like late at nights at 11, 11:30 somewhat. And that's not daily, obviously, like because everyone is like busy in their own business and job. But on weekends, I try to have a video call or something, like just to be connected, like be like they're living in India or abroad.
Okay.
So that I keep on.
So what is one quote that you live by?
Okay, that's again a good question. A quote. So I believe that opportunities don't happen. Opportunities don't happen. You have to create them, right?
Okay.
Because sometimes what we believe is we say कि किस्मत है, luck है, right? So luck is important, right? I believe luck is very important, right? But किस्मत बनाने वाला भी ऊपर वाला है, right? If you can make him happy, he might change your luck and kismat, right? So that is the thing, that quote came into my mind because I went through that, right? Because the thing is, opportunities, as I say, they don't happen. The thing is, you have to work towards your end goal, right? And then indirectly, you are creating those opportunities. You aren't creating those opportunities directly, but indirectly, right? Because if I want to expand my business, right, motivational monetary fundas, and keep a target of like 1 billion people like into my training programs, right? Then I need to work towards that. I need to market it. I need to promote it. I need to talk about it in a legitimate manner. Not over boosting it, but being true to my fundamentals, my basic, my identity, and also keeping my goal to educate the people like who can't afford it, right? So all those kinds of marketings and promotions are necessary, but being true to myself, taking all the money from people legally, charging a genuine fee, being true to myself and going towards my goal. Because if I'm getting some XYZ money, because I get like those opportunities also, like people tend to give me that XYZ money. I say no, mujhe nahi lena. Because if I'm getting that money at the end, like it will go out somewhere. Because that money is not good, right? So being legal, being fair to me, being positive and having a positive mindset and going toward that goal will create like those kinds of opportunities for me. Right? Because what happened, like in my previous role at JP, I wanted to be into multi-assets, right? So what did I do? मैं गया, ED से बात करी, MD से बात करी, CEO से बात करी, right? मुझे रोल चाहिए, right? And the one thing is like you have to ask for it. Either सामने से आएगा हाँ या ना, right? That person is not a monster like in front of you, like who will just eat you up at that particular point of time, right? You are in a corporate culture. प्यार से पूछ रहे हो हाँ या ना. अगर ना भी है तो 5 बारी और पूछो, ठीक है? वो 6ठी बारी हाँ में कन्वर्ट हो जाएगा. अगर नहीं हुआ थोड़ा टाइम के बाद पूछो. But at a point of time, you need to create those opportunities and market yourself, be it a job or be it a business. That's why I believe that opportunities are created by you and they don't happen actually.
Okay. So, what are the activities or is there a routine that you adopt to stay grounded and motivated?
Again, a good question.
All are good questions. Yeah.
So, personal questions are very good.
Yeah.
How do I remain grounded and motivated? Yeah, the thing is, as I just stated, like in my previous answer as well. So, being positive, right? So every day, like, what do? I wake up early, right? Though I'm sleeping around 12:30 a.m. or like 1 a.m. in the night because I come back by like 11:30, 12 from office. And just to prepare for next day's work and all, like it takes me like 1 a.m. to sleep. I wake up around 7 a.m. or max to max 8 a.m.
Okay.
Right in the morning. Because in the mornings I have my own personal sessions, those training sessions and some other like guest lecture sessions like in the morning.
Okay.
So the thing is like once I wake up in the morning, all fresh, the one thing is I thank God for everything.
Being grateful.
Being grateful. So that's the gratitude, right? So that's been the gratitude like which I implement, right? So expressing my gratitude for everything that God has given me. Thank you for everything. The best thing is thank you कि मैं जिंदा उठा हूँ. Right? It's not I'm dead and I'm just seeing from the heaven. यार ये था, या मतलब like ये opportunity थी, right? And like all that stuff. ठीक है? I'm grateful. I'm alive. My body is working fine. I'm able to walk. I'm able to talk. I'm able to see, hear, talk. ठीक है? Like everything. Feel the emotions. Thank you for everything. And जो भी मेरे पास चीज़ है, so in a lump sum way, I'll be saying thank you for JP Morgan. Thank you for my current profile. Thank you for my current manager, whose name is XYZ. Thank you for my team lead. Thank you for my business. Thank you for all the people, for my students like who have joined my courses, right? My next morning would be thank you for this podcast here at Equentis, right?
Yeah.
So thanking everything, because if you are able to express that gratitude, like even the universe would be happy, right? So that keeps me grounded and happy because I am full of like positivity like in the morning, like with that stuff, right? So that thing keeps on happening. And of course, I would say like helping the needy, because every month, like once my salary comes into place, at least 5%, like 3 to 5% of it, I tend to give into charity. It's not like donations, but helping people like on the road for some food stuff, for grocery stuff. बाहर गर्मी हो रही है, right? तो ठंडा पिलवा दिया सबको. Right, so all these things I tend to do like every month, and बीच में भी like जब मुझे time मिलता है, so like all these things I tend to do. So that is the thing which I believe is making me feel more confident, positive, grounded, and motivated. Okay. Because I believe in my mind that I am motivated, because if some kind of struggles are coming into my life, right, I will still be positive. I will still say, जैसे अपनी वो movie थी like 3 Idiots, right? Like all is well, all is well. So like मैं all is well नहीं बोलूँगा. I'll say that I am confident, I am positive, I am happy, I am courageous, I am stress free. So these things I tend to say like most of the times, always.
Okay.
मैं कोई भी बड़ी चीज़ करने जाता हूँ, ऐसे all these things. मैं podcast से पहले मैं वहाँ बैठा था. I was like, I am positive, I am happy, I am courageous. Podcast धांसू जाने वाला है, right?
Yeah.
So all these things, they also make me feel positive and motivated. So that's the thing.
So now we have rapid fire questions.
Oh.
So let's begin with that. Ready? Mumbai or Delhi?
Of course, Delhi.
Watching a movie or reading a book?
Watching a movie.
Saving or investing?
Investing.
Describe your Monday in one word.
Boring.
Okay. Fintech or edtech?
EdTech.
all-nighters or early mornings?
Early mornings.
Foreign investment tools or Indian investment tools?
Indian investor tools.
Trading or investing?
Investing.
Bearish or bullish on markets?
Of course, bullish.
Okay. So thank you so much, Maurya, for joining us. And I'm honored to interview you on this and having you on this podcast. But before I let you go, there is one question that I would like to ask you. What is one advice for all the investors and youngsters who are just getting started with investing?
I would say them stay grounded, stay positive and motivated, and have the curiosity to learn.
Okay.
Because you need to be clear of like what you are doing. Because new people who have maybe crossed the age of 18 or who are just 18, they're quite confused that they want to do a job or a startup or a business. And because what happens nowadays is that startup world is also booming. And सबको लगता है startup ही करो, startup ही करो. So doing startup is not bad. Do a startup, be your own boss. But you need to be clear why a startup, how to do a startup, when to do a startup, कैसे करना है manage. Right? It's good to fail. It's good to fail like in multiple startups. But you should have that aim, right? That kind of a motivation. Job कर रहे हो, कौन सी job करनी है, क्यों करनी है, right? What's your aim? What job? What role? What salary? Right? Everything should be there in your mind.
Okay.
And as nowadays we popularly we talk about the manifestations and stuff, right? So like all these things are being there like in the market now, right? Which I believe are true if you have that intent and intensity. Intent is what business you want to start, why, how. Which job you want to land into, why, how, what salary, what CTC, what benefits, right? And your intensity is how are you or what are you trying to achieve that, right? If I want to be a portfolio manager in future, then what I am doing for that? I'm trying to build my network with the portfolio managers. I'm trying to understand what actually what actually they do with the systems. Trying to track the global markets in a much better way. That's my intensity. Agar business hai, I'm trying to promote that in a legal way, right? Trying to empower people, right? Like making them financially, I would say, literate, right? So that's my passion towards that. So all these things are my intensity. So a person who is starting his journey needs to have that intent and that intensity to fulfill that intent, like what exactly the person wants to do. So guys, have an intent कि क्या करना है, like what you want to do, and intensity कैसे करना है, right? So that needs to be there in your mind, and you need to be very, very clear. Because what you want to be in future, the first thing is you need to imagine itself like within you कि वो चीज़ हो गई है. If I want to be a CEO of XYZ company, in my mind, I'm a CEO right now. It's my seat, it's my table, it's my meeting room. I am a CEO right now. I have that confidence in me. I have that kind of motivation and positivity. That won't come right now, but after 5 months, 6 months, that will start get reflected in the way I talk, my attitude, my consistency. And that opportunity you will get very soon, right? After a certain, I would say, point of time, right? Like once you have that VP, ED and that MD wala baat. But that thing that you need to have in your mind. So what you want to be, imagine that thing that you are already that person. I am the CEO of this company XYZ, right? After this podcast, you people would be shaking my hands and praising me. बहुत अच्छा podcast गया है, right? So that's in my mind, right? My business is growing. Billions and billions of people are joining my courses. I go to global platforms and talk about finance and motivation. So that's the thing which I want to do. I need to have that thing into my mind. So that's an advice.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.